It's the West Coast edition of Speedvision News Race Week, giving you the most comprehensive coverage of motorsports you can find.
I'm Bob Varsha. He's Bill Patrick. Let's fire it up.
Next on Race Week, Minardi dominates the Brazilian Grand Prix. The champ's so frustrated, he takes up another sport. Michael Andretti returning to Formula One.
I thoroughly believe that things happen for a reason.
Ben Bostrom wins the Super Bowl, then switches from 2 wheels to 4. And hundreds of thousands show up for the World of Outlaws in Texas. Bidding a fond farewell to my broadcast partner who embarks on a new career. Race Week is next. Hi there. Welcome to Race Week, and you got it. You got it. I cannot tell a lie. April Fools, we're happy to tell you that none of those stories actually happened.
Except maybe one of them. But thankfully, plenty of real stories did happen, and some of those are better than fiction. Sunday's Brazilian Grand Prix was historic before the lights went green, as Michael Schumacher and brother Ralph became the first siblings in history to start a Formula One race from the front row. But after complaints about the dilapidated track, one armed robbery, a pair of garage burglaries, and a falling television camera that came within a foot of Jaguar boss Bobby Rahal, it was going to take a dramatic race to relieve the Brazilian gloom. And that's exactly what it was. It all seemed like a bad joke to hometown favorite Rubens Barrichello, whose Ferrari went dead on the reconnaissance lap, no fuel pressure. Rubino made the long jog back to the pits and jumped into the spare chassis, getting out just in time to take his spot on the starting grid. Now at the start, watch the second car on the left line. Mika Hakkinen waves his arms after stalling, but the race goes forward. Michael Schumacher grabbed the lead from pole, while former kart champ Juan Montoya leaps from 4th to 2nd, David Coulthard in 3rd. Hakkinen climbed out forlornly while the safety car slowed the field. On the restart, lap 3, Montoya ignores his cold tires and pounces on Schumacher for the race lead, pushing the Ferrari wide to seal the deal and nearly costing Schumacher second place to Coulthard. 2 turns later, Barrichello runs up and over the back of Ralf Schumacher. Barrichello is done. Schumacher pitted and returned 4 laps down. Now Montoya, who's never been to the Interlagos track, dominated the race with the help of car control skills like this, while the surprising Sauber of Grand Prix sophomore Nick Heidfeld moved up steadily to 4th, and that became 3rd on lap 39 when Jos Verstappen smashed into the back of race leader Montoya, the 3rd straight race in which one or both Williams have been hit from behind and removed from the event. Then the skies opened and pit stops for wet rubber jumbled the running order. Running on a dry setup, race leader Michael Schumacher suffered this spin, kept the car on track, but lost ground to the pursuing Coulthard. Then, with 22 laps to go, DC dove under the lap car of Tarso Marquez to pass Schumi for the lead. He pulled away from there to his first victory of the season, snapping Schumacher's winning streak at 6. Later, Coulthard admitted he had hedged his bets and put a partial wet setup on the car and spent the early laps praying for the expected rain.
With the changeable weather, we'd compromise the setup a little bit for the dry to try and make sure I was in good shape for the damp. And although it was a bit of a struggle to stay with them at the beginning of the race, once it was damp, the car was working very well. So I have to say a big thank you to the team.
Coulthard looked pretty relieved to win, in part because he had promised to do so as a birthday present to his sister. The podium was the first for Heidfeld, while Olivier Panis, Jarno Trulli, and Giancarlo Fisichella picked up their first points of the season. Former world champ Jacques Villeneuve finished 7th, while Kimi Räikkönen ran in the points in his 25th career car race of any kind before spinning off. Montoya went unrewarded in 16th, Barrichello 21st, Hakkinen stone last with just 1 point from the first 3 races. The win brings Coulthard within 6 points of Schumacher in the championship, breaking a tie for 2nd with Barrichello, while Heidfeld leaps to 4th with his podium finish. Despite their dominating performances, Ralf Schumacher and Williams teammate Montoya have 2 and 0 points respectively. In the constructors' standings, Ferrari gives up 4 points to McLaren, the big 2 teams well in front of the fight for 3rd once again. Next up, the San Marino race in Imola, Italy in 2 weeks.
This Formula One update has been sponsored by Bridgestone.
And one final note from Brazil, the International Formula 3000 season opened in Sao Paulo, the first ever overseas opener for the Grand Prix Stepping Stone Series. Justin Wilson became the first British winner of a Formula 3000 event in the last 4 seasons, while Derek Hill, son of 1961 world champion Phil Hill, made his series debut, finishing 14th.
It's two-wheel time now, and American Ben Bostrom continues to prove that he belongs right where he is. Where is he, you ask? Well, he's in his second season of World Superbike racing. That's where he is. And this weekend at Kyalami, South Africa, he grabbed the first super pole of his new career. The question was, could he take advantage of that? Now, here's the deal. If you want to watch the races here on Speedvision and you would rather not know the outcome, then take note. Here is when the races will be aired. And in another 5 seconds, we're going to show you the highlights. And here we go. Race 1, there's the man of the hour, Ben Bostrom. But he got behind the 8-ball in a hurry in this race as Troy Bayliss and Troy Corser pull away at the start. Bayliss in first, Corser in second. 3 laps in, defending champ Colin Edwards quickly moves up and takes the lead from Bayliss on the inside. Bayliss does not throw in the towel, but he might as well have, as Edwards pulls away to win by a country mile. Edwards first, Bayliss second, and to show there are no hard feelings, reach out and touch somebody. To the start of race 2, Bayliss and Bostrom pull away. Bayliss in first, followed by the pole sitter Bostrom. Now, we haven't seen a crash yet. Oh, yes, we have. Akira Yanagawa, see ya. Colin Edwards running third, passing Corser here for second, trailing only Bostrom now. Edwards has Bostrom in his sights. And finally, he spies an opening and takes advantage. Watch it. Squeaking past Bostrom for the lead. But that lead was short-lived as Bostrom quickly returns the favor. How? Well, it was easy. Edwards had slowed down with engine trouble. And that paved the way for Bostrom's first win of the season. Yeah, and the Ducati team whoops it up. So, Bostrom wins, Bayliss second. The two Troys continue to set the pace in the season series. Corser with 82 points and 2 victories. Bayliss with 80 points. Bostrom moving up with 54. Defending champ Edwards in fourth at the moment.
Now, Michael Andretti says he misjudged the Indy Racing lead because he was so frustrated at being denied a chance to race at Indianapolis. Well, the great race and one of its legendary families have been reunited. In a moment, we'll have an exclusive interview with Michael Andretti on being back home again in Indiana.
Welcome back to Speedvision News Raceweek.
Andretti, Indianapolis. To some, the names are synonymous. Most everybody agrees it's high time and Andretti got back to the great race.
And one is going. On Wednesday, the worst-kept secret of the sport was finally confirmed. Michael Andretti announced he's returning to the Brickyard in an entry from his kart squad, Team Green, but will use successful IRL team Panther Racing to prepare the equipment. Our man Derek Daly was on hand Tuesday for the big announcement.
The last time Michael Andretti was here at this hallowed ground at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway was 1995. On that day, he could have won, but he crashed. Believe it or not, since then, Michael has been a bit scared that he may never get back here to race again.
I was getting a little frustrated, and last year when I saw Juan out there doing what he was doing, I was like, you know, this is just not right. I should be there too, and that's when I really got in my mind, and I really wanted to do it again.
You have been so dominant so many times at Indy. Is it a sense of frustration that you haven't managed to bag that win yet?
Well, I would say, yeah, I'm definitely frustrated. There's no question about it. You know, I think I have the distinction of having most laps led by a non-winner here, and that's one that I don't want to have.
91 is something so many people remember. Just tell us a little bit about the battle at the end.
Well, unfortunately, it was a battle that really shouldn't have happened because I almost had Rick lapped down early in the race, but then I got a flat tire, and so he was able to get his car right. And in the end, I was starting on restart behind him, and I got a good jump. And actually, my cousin John helped me a lot. He got out of the way because he was one of the lap cars, and I got a toe off him, and I got a good slingshot on the outside into one. And I think that was one of the first outside passes ever done at Indy. And I thought, oh, we're looking good. And then coming off of 4, I saw Rick had a good run. I'm like, oh, no. And he was able to do the same thing to me the following lap going into 1. So it was frustrating.
Michael, you've tested an IRL car. How technically challenging will it be to mix the champ car knowledge that you have and get into basically a new style of racing car?
Quite different. More different than I thought. I did drive the car down in Homestead this weekend, and it was a lot of things that we would do on the champ car did not work on the IRL car. So it's going to be, it's a little bit of a learning curve, but that's the advantage of being with a team like Panther. You know, they have the experience, and I think they're going to keep us on the right path, you know, and I think maybe that's where it's going to be a little more challenging for a team like Penske, because it's, you know, they don't have that experience. So I'm hoping that that could be a good advantage for us.
May this year, Michael, will be very challenging from a travel point. Just take us through the weeks before, and the weekend before and the weekend after.
Yeah, we're at we're at Nazareth, which is one good thing. At least it's Nazareth, my hometown, and I leave right after the race, come here to Indy, and we start running on Monday after Nazareth, and we run all that week. And I actually leave Sunday, I think, from Indy to go right to Japan, because I have Honda commitments there in Japan, and so then we come home Sunday, and then I get to go home for about 2 days, 3 days, and then we come back here, you know, Wednesday for Carburation Day, and then we run Indy, and then we go right from here to Milwaukee.
Yeah.
I'm tired.
Michael understands the commitment that he's made, and Michael understands the time involved in traveling between the two, but you know, he's a serious racer. It's great to see him just get back in that car. It's great to still see the same drive in his eyes that I saw in the first year I worked with him. And he's a racer, and he's it'll be a great month.
So with Michael's announcement, we now have Andretti, Unser, and Mears back at the Indy 500. For Speedvision News Race Week, I'm Derek Daly.
Thanks, Derek. Now, this week, Penske Racing officially entered drivers Gilles de Ferran and Helio Castroneves for this year's 500. Also this week, Sam Schmidt Motorsports filed an entry for Davey Hamilton. That makes a total of 38 entries for the May Classic, 3 of them without drivers named, 1 each from Dreyer and Reinbold, Kelly Racing, and Team Menard. We're hearing the names Scott Pruitt and Robbie Gordon for the latter 2. Entries will close April 11th.
T-minus 8 weeks and counting before the big race. All right, stay where you are. When we come back, a big weekend in the World of Outlaws series. A slow start for one of the biggest names in the series this year. Could he turn it around this weekend? Stay put, y'all.
Welcome back. On Thursday, the Florida Senate voted unanimously to close autopsy photos from the public record unless ordered by a judge. The new law arises out of the struggle following the death of Dale Earnhardt of the Daytona 500. When the Orlando Sentinel newspaper asked to see the Earnhardt autopsy photos as part of an investigation into NASCAR safety, his widow Teresa fought to keep them private. A compromise was reached to allow an independent expert to view the Earnhardt photos and file a report. Meanwhile, Florida lawmakers were besieged with demands from citizens to change the state's open records law. Teresa Earnhardt watched as Florida Governor Jeb Bush signed the first of several new laws around the country Thursday afternoon, then spoke to the press.
Our family has suffered unimaginably since February 18th, and even more so as a result of this violation of our right to privacy. But today we are reassured in the knowledge that something positive has emerged from this incredible ordeal.
Sunday at Texas Motor Speedway, Dale Earnhardt Jr. hoped to score his first win of the season after starting from pole in the Harris 500. But it was another Dale, Jarrett, who led the last 6 laps en route to his second win of 2001. Steve Park finished second ahead of Johnny Benson, who gambled on worn tires late but wound up having to fight off rookie Kurt Busch for third. Earnhardt Jr.'s finish matched his car number 8th. The victory allowed Jarrett to fatten his Cup points lead by 30 to 75 over Jeff Gordon. The finish marked the first time this season that a driver who led the most laps actually won the race. Jarrett also becomes the first 2-time Winston Cup winner of 2001. Also in Texas this weekend, the NASCAR Busch Series ran. Kevin Harvick continued his joy ride through the year by winning the Johnny King 300. Harvick started from pole and led 114 of the 200 laps. The win extends his points lead over Jason Keller to 110. One other Cup note: on Sunday morning, Richard Childress confirmed that reigning Busch Grand National champion Jeff Green will drive a third RCR Chevrolet in a 7-race trial in the Winston Cup Series beginning April 29th in Fontana, California, with sponsorship from media giant America Online.
Now to the World of Outlaws, as promised. And if you know this series, then you know the name Kinser, which makes it all the more surprising to hear what a slow start Mark Kinser has had so far this season. Would that change this weekend in Texas? Only one way to find out. At the start of Thursday's prelim feature, Brian Paulus takes the lead from the pole sitter Darren Pittman. On lap 5, Dale Blaney trying to catch Craig Delansky in the 7 car. Watch as he hits a rut in the track and starts to flip, and then does so with a little help from Sammy Swindell. After a flat tire put him at the back of the pack, Paul McMahon gets together with P.J. Chess, and a huge crash ensues. Both drivers would walk away, luckily. At the halfway point, your leader Paulus gets a little loose. Here he hits the same rut that sent Blaney flipping. That allows Mark Kinzer to sneak through and take the lead. 2 laps to go now. A charging Danny Wood gets around Paulus for second. Wood had started in 18th. There was no way he was going to catch Mark Kinzer, who opened a 5-second lead to take the victory. Wood in second. Now, Friday night's A-Main, and pole sitter Mark Kinzer holds on to the lead at the start ahead of Danny Wood. Lots of red flags in this one. Wood causing this one when he flips his car in turn 4. On lap 13, a scary moment for the leader Kinzer. He swerves to avoid the spun car of Paul McMahon. A deep rut in the low groove causing a lot of problems. This is as bad as it gets in this series, folks. Tony Furr flipping and collecting Darren Pittman. 5 laps to go. Sammy Swindell cuts a tire that brings out a caution, bunches up the field. Craig Delansky in the red number 7 takes advantage of that on the restart, passes Steve Kinzer in the green number 11 car for second. But again, it's all Mark Kinzer as he becomes the first driver this season to follow up a prelim win with a win in a feature. Slump? What slump? Mark Kinzer now in 3rd place in the season standings, just 66 points in back of Danny the Dude. Hooters Pro Cup Racing making its debut in Pensacola. The pole sitter Shane Huffman takes the early lead over Mario Gosselin, but neither would figure in the outcome of this one. The race comes down to 2-time defending series champ Bobby Gill in the 5 car and the 21 Chevy of Derek Kelly. They battle back and forth, fender to fender, until lap 228 when Gill takes control and cruises home with the victory. He has now won 2 of the 3 races so far this season.
And we'll be keeping you abreast of developments in that series as the season rolls on. Elsewhere, a funny thing happened to Aaron Slide on his way to stardom in the AMA Superbike Series. The former Honda star decided his was really a driving ambition after all. We'll explain when Raceweek returns.
Welcome back. With new rules in place for the Kart FedEx Championship Series that prohibit testing this season, and last month's race in Rio having been canceled, drivers haven't been able to take full advantage of the gap created in this year's schedule. While the uncharacteristic 4-week break means no seat time, it's still business as usual for the teams. But for many drivers, it's a welcome break. At the season opener in Mexico, we asked some of the drivers what they would do to keep their edge.
I'm going to do some training, keep up the fitness level that I've achieved throughout the winter, and, enjoy the time off, no testing. So, keep focused. But, just have a good time, I hope.
Everybody's in the same boat, so, it's a good thing. I think it gives us the chance to still have a life, beyond racing. So I'm quite happy with it. There's times when you're out of the car for a month at a time, in the off season, and it's no big deal. So, I just got to continue to work out, which I will anyway. So.
Time out of the car doesn't necessarily mean time away from the team.
You want to do well, and so in that month you'll be thinking of that race, and you'll be preparing that race. If not, testing, talking to the engineers, trying to learn from all the data you have already in your possession, and develop a good starting point for Friday's practice.
But while training and crunching numbers may be status quo throughout the paddock, ultimately there is no substitute for the real thing.
There's nothing that compares to driving the car, and now with the testing rules that we can't test anymore, so no one's going to be testing for this month, we have a lot of downtime, and I don't know, thank God that we're not going to Mid-Ohio beginning of April, or Portland, which are really tough races. We're going to Long Beach, which is a little bit less physical for us, so it's going to be a little bit better, a little bit easier.
Fittipaldi mentioned Long Beach. That's the next event on Sunday. Paul Tracy, the defending champion there.
As if he doesn't already travel enough, Christian Fittipaldi decided to use some of his downtime, getting a first-hand look at the new Lausitz ring in Germany. That's just one of our stories as we get you up to speed.
The 30-year-old Newman Haas driver visited the new 2-mile tri-oval in Lausitz, Germany on Thursday. While he wasn't able to test on the track,
Fittipaldi did ferry journalists around the facility, giving him at least a basic knowledge of the track, something he hopes might give him a head start when the Champ Cars arrive to race in September. Former World Superbike rider Aaron Slight is switching from 2 wheels to 4 after signing a 2-year deal with Peugeot in the British Touring Car Championship. The New Zealander plans to race 5 events this year, then a full season in 2002. Slight was contracted to run the 2001 AMA Superbike Series for competition accessories Ducati, but it appears that a disappointing performance in the season-opening Daytona 200 convinced him to make the switch. There's no word on who would replace Slight at Ducati. Meanwhile, Formula One team Sauber is venturing into the 2-wheel business. Sauber will officially unveil its 2002 3-cylinder 4-stroke Grand Prix engine at the season opener in Japan, April 7th. The Swiss-based team and Malaysian sponsor Petronas will be the first manufacturers to unveil their 2002 contender. And 4-time World Superbike champion Carl Fogarty has reportedly finalized plans to run his own Ducati team in the 2002 World Superbike Championship. The early word is that the 2000 European Superstock champ, James Ellison, has been contacted about riding for Fogarty's new team. Finally, George Connor, the last surviving driver from the pre-war days of the Indianapolis 500, passed away last week in California, just 31 days after the death of fellow old-timer Duke Nalen. Connor drove in 14 500s before World War II shut down the Speedway. His best finish was 3rd in 1949. George Connor was 94 years old. Here's what's happening this week on Speedvision. A rear of the Formula One Brazilian Grand Prix on Monday. Then on Friday, the Speedvision Touring Car Championship from Sebring at 8 p.m. Eastern, followed by the GT class at 9. Don't miss it. Time now for the Lowe's Move of the Week. Early on in the Brazilian Grand Prix, Juan Pablo Montoya puts a great move on Michael Schumacher in turn 1. Get out of my way. Neither would win the race, though. David Coulthard would come home with the victory, but Montoya's move is the Lowe's Move of the Week. So how'd you spend your week?
Well, there was a new car wash opening down the street. Went down and checked that out. How about you?
Well, I had something to do with cars, too. Drove the new Porsche Super Cup 911 GT3 in Germany, and here's the proof.
For more information and updates on the latest racing news, log on to speedvision.com.